Hey everybody, it's the Nitty Professor. It's time for another boot vid. These babies smell good. I really like leather. Topic of the day, since summer is nigh, we've had some 90-degree weather days past week. What happens when you sweat in your heritage boots? So, you guys know me. I spend $300 or $400 on a pair of boots. I'm going to wear them. I don't care what the conditions are. I don't care how I feel, what it looks like out there, whether it's wet or dry. I'm going to get my money's worth out of these babies. I didn't buy them to have them live on a shelf. Therefore, in the hot summer, and let's face it, the summers are just getting longer, right? I do sweat in my boots. I wear them outside. It's 90, 95, 100 degrees, gardening, mowing the lawn, walking my dogs, doing treks in urban surroundings, like I'm going to Toronto soon, what have you. So, my Hawthorne mule skinner, the 8113s, I think that's the right number. 8113. Yep, my Iron Rangers from Red Wing. Why, I've been really putting them through their paces lately, and they do get pretty wet inside. So, my strategy, of course I have something in my strategy is to leave them out, usually for a good 24 hours, and air dry. Works pretty well, but I thought I should consult my favorite AI and do a little research. And I would also be really curious if you all agree with what ChatGPT came up with. So a lot of it makes sense to me based on what little I know and my experience with my boots. But, you know, maybe it's missing something. So maybe it's missing whatever it is in my eye. All right. We start off with a little introductory. So it goes into what your sweat has in it. Salt, urea, and other organic compounds. Now, if you're a medical doctor and you know what those other organic compounds are, and if we should be scared of them, let us know. I also know that sweat contains H2O. So, one of the points that I read off of here is that water per se isn't necessarily bad for leather, but when you combine it with salt, that's where you run into issues. It's kind of like how we're in the salt belt here in South Dakota. So, vehicles tend to get pretty rusty. Whereas if you're in Montana or you're in some other state where they just use sand, your vehicle, guess what? It's not going to get rusty. So maybe the same applies to our boots. So some of the basic observations I have in front of me are sweat can dry out the leather by breaking down its natural oils. Makes sense. And it can cause stains, obviously. I find it interesting to see how sweat stains affect leather on belts. For example, you can tell if a guy, like, they sweat on their back and then their belt is stained on the back versus the front. It's kind of cool. It's like, you know, their own personal patina. Happens with boots as well. It's probably going to darken the leather. Can cause cracking and rot over time. So obviously you want to get the sweat out of there and you want to condition the leather to keep it good for as long as possible. Also, obviously with the moisture, you get odor and bacterial growth. And what I'm reading here is that is even more the case with lined boots. So let's dig into a little bit. I'm starting here with, I have my Chrome Excel. I kind of broke this down into the different leathers to see what it said. And there is some pretty interesting information. So here's a pair of Chrome Excel. These are my 1,000 miles. This is, I believe this is the Evans model. And the Chrome Excel, got some pros and cons here. Pros is it's resilient, resistant to moisture and sweat because it's stuffed with oils and waxes. So the negative is that the salt can break down the fats and lead to drying out. So as far as care goes, this is something that's new to me, which I should have known before, but it calls for buffing to restore the oils to the surface. Also replenishing the oil naturally. Now, interestingly, ChatGPT seems to be a fan of Venetian shoe cream. But I'm sure you guys know plenty of oils that we could be putting on this Chrome Excel. If you think Venetian shoe cream is the best, let me know. If you think there are alternatives that are just as good, maybe they're cheaper or they're perhaps even better, I would like to know that too. I always like to try to, you know, do the best that I can by my boots because, like I say, they cost a lot of money and I want to get my money's worth out of them. It's also, you know, it's part of my slow fashion vibe. I want these boots to last as long as they possibly can. Then it says don't over-condition because that can clog pores and attract more dirt and sweat. So let's take a look at the second category that I put into my prompt, which is vegetable tanned leather. So here's another pair of Wolverine 1000 Miles. These are the classic model with the leather sole. I do love these in the summer because they breathe. These are olive tanned leather, and according to ChatGPT, vegetable tanned leather has the pro that it develops a rich patina with time and use. Sounds good to me. I love me a good patina. Con is they're highly absorbent, so you can get dark staining. So I suppose it's like the pro and con of the patina. Do you want the stains or don't you? I'm not opposed, right? But there's also the con of possible dry rot. Don't want that. So the bot is recommending saddle soap for occasional deep cleaning, quote, not too often. And I would be really curious, like, how often do you guys recommend using saddle soap on leather heritage boots? I've done it like a couple times. I've heard that you want to be really sparing with that because it can do precisely what you don't want, which is to remove oils and this kind of thing. So let me know. You know, having a bunch of dirt stuck in your pores of your leather probably isn't the greatest thing. So that's where your saddle soap comes into use. But yeah, how often? When should it be avoided? The ChatGPT is also recommending a neutral conditioner such as beeswax. Here's a funny little story. I was in Walmart passing through the Herman Survivor aisle, and to my shock, they had boot care products right there across from those, pick your descriptor, boots. And they had a product with beeswax, and it was pretty cheap, so I picked it up. I'll probably do a video where I condition a pair of boots with that product, and I'll let you know what my thoughts are. I should probably look it up too. It doesn't really list the ingredients on there, like what's in there besides beeswax. I mean, could just be that, but maybe it's the kind of thing where they don't have to list those ingredients. And anyways, any case, I was just kind of shocked to find that just sitting on the shelf at Walmart says it's made in the United States. I'm like, okay, I'll bite. So I picked it up. All right. Beeswax base is good for added water resistance. Keep well aired and dry between wears. Dry between wears, that's something I always do. But there's down the road here, there's information on how to dry it between wears, which I did not know. Now, next selection, my favorites. I wear these more in the summer than any other pair. These are what I was just talking about. Hi, Benny. Do you want to be in the video, Benny? My dog wants to be in the video. The Hawthorne Mule Skinner leather, it's a rough out leather. It's from Red Wing. These are my End Rangers, the 8113s. The flesh side of the hide is turned outward, and we get this, you know, suede-y kind of look, and it sure does accumulate a lot of dirt. That doesn't bother me in the least. You know me. We've got some nice grass stains on there. Look at those babies. I just love them. It kind of adds its own, you know, crispy layer. Hey, Benny, what do you want? Benny's being a dog. You're being a dog. Pros for the rough out. It's breathable, less prone to visual staining. Okay, I don't know. Mine are pretty stained here. Con can absorb sweat and hold salt and crud. It can hold crud in its nap. Yeah, that's certainly true. I try to brush these babies off every time I wear them. I think I forgot the last time, though. I think we're dealing with some caked on dust. So maybe after I'm done here, I can do what I'm supposed to and brush these baby off. So let's see what they say for the care tips. A brass suede brush to clean and raise the nap. I do have a couple of brushes with those metal bristles, and I think that's a really good idea. And it says to use a protector spray. I don't know. I've conditioned these with the Red Wing stuff, the Neat's foot oil, and to be honest, I would probably do that again. I know there's like a kind of controversy about that, but I've done now the traditional conditioning on rough out leather. I've even seen the white site recommend it, and that's probably what I'll keep doing moving forward. Because, yeah, protector spray, that's fine, but it's not going to restore the oil, I don't think, right? It says avoid heavy oiling because it'll flatten the nap and darken it. So what? The nap's flat. Big deal, right? I mean, the leather is cared for. That, to me, more important than having this nap, right? The nap is fun, right? But I want the leather to survive over the long haul. So I'll be happy to change the appearance if it means that the leather is going to, you know, be in good condition and hold up well. So then we have my last example. And, you know, I've left a few boots out here. I've left some leathers out. So feel free to fill in some gaps. Hi, Benny. What do you want? He's like jumping on me. Hi. Yeah. Sit. Good boy. These boots are from White's. These are their Main Street. I have 2 pairs of these. I have one in black with the broguing and one without. These are lined, and I assume this is in calfskin. I am quite confident that that's what the lining is. So I do have a few pairs of boots. I don't tend to wear lined boots in the summer just because they're a little hotter, but sometimes it's, the circumstances call for that. Want to get a certain look. I'm going to a conference, it's something more professional, something like that. And most of the boots that I have are lined, like my Grant Stones, the diesels with the kangaroo leather, then they're lined. Okay, so pros is that the lining helps the boot hold its shape, improves comfort. That's certainly true. And this is a suede, right? So the suede, it's split, so we need the lining to kind of thicken it up. But the cons, it says can hold salt and moisture and encourage odor or mold. And honestly, I don't know what leather wouldn't do that. So in any case, that's just my take on what I'm having spit out at me here. But care tips are, again, let the boots fully dry between wears, 24 plus hours. And finally, and I know some of you are going to come at me with this, use the cedar boot trees. So I would go broke trying to buy cedar boot trees for all my boots. That would be nuts. And I guess, as much as I want to take care of my boots, their shape is less important to me than just keeping the leather conditioned. So the advantage of cedar boot trees is it wicks moisture and it reduces bacterial growth. It makes me wonder if I just pop some of those balls in there, would that do the same thing? Maybe, because those are probably a little cheaper. It says you can even wipe the interior with a lightly damp cloth. And if the odor builds, use sandalwood powder or activated charcoal. Now, I personally, maybe it's just my sweat. My sweat is sweet. I don't know. I've never had a problem with odor. I've never had a problem with mold or something like that because I always do dry my boots out thoroughly. But here are the general boot care tips. And to me, I think this is probably the most interesting information that I'm getting here. Number 1, rotate your boots. So don't wear the same pair every day. I've heard that multiple times, and on rare occasion, I go against that because I'm just into that, wearing that pair of boots during that week, or the weather changed and I haven't worn them, and I'm wearing them 3 days in a row. So I do try to avoid that. So you should have at least a couple pairs, right? If you're going to wear them the way I wear them, which is under any conditions, then you want to be in a position where you're not wearing the same pair every day. Give at least 24 hours to dry out between wears. Use the boot trees, what we were just talking about. The cedar absorbs moisture, helps them maintain their shape. Big woo. Okay, great. My feet have their own shape. But in any case, air them out. And this is something I haven't done, and maybe I should. Remove the laces and open the boots fully. Let them dry naturally away from direct heat. So, I was feeling the other day, I'd been out gardening. I mean, it was just so hot. And I was feeling up in here, and, these were literally wet all the way up inside the toe. And I was like, they're not now, right? So that's a good thing. They're fine. However, that's a lot of sweat, and it's a lot of punishment for them to take. Another thing suggests is to brush often to redistribute those oils and to remove surface salt. Obviously, it's not going to help on the inside. But if for some reason you sweat on the outside of your boot, right, you can do that. Condition periodically. It recommends 1 to 3 months. Now, that to me strikes me as kind of a little crazy. If I was wearing these boots every other day, yeah, I probably would need to do that. But on a lot of my boots, I'll just condition them once or twice a year. And then here's something. Let me know if you actually agree with this. It says you can clean salt stains by mixing vinegar and water in a 1-to-1 ratio. Dab gently, then wipe clean with clean water and dry. Follow up with conditioner. Have you ever tried that? A vinegar and water mix? And then we have a little chart. And then a few other final tips. It says wear wicking wool socks. So I always wear wool socks. This is to avoid cotton. You can use foot powders to minimize moisture. Never done that. Could be an option. And rotate your boots. So there we go. There are other kinds of leathers that, like I say, I haven't covered, like some of the leathers that I have from Red Wing. I didn't do just like a plain suede, but yeah, most of my suede boots are lined. So in any case, If you have any comments, anything to add or subtract from that, let us know, because, you know, I want my boots to last a long time, but I'm not going to baby them. I paid too much money to do that. I'm not going to wear cheap shoes in the name of protecting the expensive boots that are much better for my feet. So yeah, I put them to the test, but I try to take good care of them so that they serve me for a long time. Let us know if you know more than ChatGPT. On that note, thanks for listening. We'll talk soon. Bye.